territory for me. It's a new crowd, it's a new island, it's the Caribbean. I think it's going to be amazing. I've seen a few things. I've seen how the crowd feel about the artist, about Whitney Houston, and I am just over the moon to see their reaction for the show. We have a great show, so yeah.
And as Prime Minister of St. Martin, of course, I'm welcoming Belinda Davis to this country. It's incredible to have such a talented person that is actually moving the hearts of the people of the world. To have her here in St. Martin, for us from St. Martin, it's a great honor and a great pleasure. And Belinda, really, we're looking forward to your performance, and welcome to St. Martin. Welcome to our friendly island.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My name is Romeo Fleming, and I'm the proud sponsor with Hertz of the event that is taking place on Wednesday the 12th of February at Alize's. And I hope that the people will come, because this is the first time that we do an event with an international singer, and we do hope to do many more in the future to bring St. Martin on the market of the business of singing. Thank you very much.
Take me for what I am, 'cause I'll never change all my colors for you. Take my love, I'll never ask for too much, just all that you are and everything that you do. I don't really need to look very much further. I don't want to have to go where you don't follow. I won't hold it back again. This passion inside, I can't run from myself. There's nowhere to hide. Your love I remember forever. Well, don't make me close.
Previous Council of Ministers discussion, there's quite some discussions about the waiving of lottery fees. If you could explain what was the, for whom were the lottery fees waived? Was it casinos as well? What was the reasoning? And do you feel that it sets a precedent? I understood it was perhaps related to COVID and closures. Would that not open the door then for other businesses who were also closed during that period?
Thank you, Millie, for your question. I want to take this opportunity, because I kind of assumed and waited for this type of question, to just make a clarification for the public before I answer your question. Regarding the 50,000 guilder threshold and the decision to waive fees, the 50,000 guilder threshold, as outlined in the mandate registry and relevant legislation such as the Rijkswet van Financiële Toezicht, and which is the National Accountability Ordinance, which primarily applies to entering any legal agreement of procurement of goods or the contracting of services. It is a safeguard to ensure that decisions involving significant expenditures are subject to additional oversight. So in this particular case, the decision to waive fees does not involve an expenditure or a disbursement or funds, but rather a regulatory decision within the framework of the lottery ordinance. So I paid keen attention to 2 weeks ago, or was it last week's press briefing, where one was asked that if I had to come to COM. This has to do with the ordinance grants the minister the authority to manage the regulatory fees. So what was done internally is that we followed, and as mentioned before in the Parliament, we followed the jurisprudence of a decision that the former COM decided on casinos to waive fees for during the across the board for all casinos during the hurricane time and COVID time. So we used that as jurisprudence, and we created an internal mandate that any lottery company that comes with this request, once they provide or they meet the criteria, that these fees would be waived. And that's what we did across the board.
So just for clarity, because in particular for COVID, there was a whole plan to support businesses. There was a criteria, and it focused really on paying money for employees so that their livelihood was secured.
Right.
So don't you feel that there was already a plan? I mean, what about the stores on Front Street, for example, that were
That's
closed?
in general, but I don't think that the plan was you had to buy into it. You had to come in and you had to register for it. It wasn't across the board. Every business come over. You had to follow certain procedures, and based on what I've seen with this particular lottery, they didn't partake in that, and they only asked. Actually, they didn't ask for COVID. This specific one, they only asked for during the hurricane time, which was just 10 months. So that's
so just for clarity, it's a decision for one lottery.
It was only, but it's an open invitation for any lottery that wanted to have those fees waived. They can come, but they need to follow certain criteria in order for us to waive the fees.
And that includes casinos?
No, this is lottery.
Only
this
lotteries.
Is for lotteries. The casinos was covered by the mandate from the former COM.
The former Minister of TS, Leo Lambrix, he took to social media and wrote about the tender for the garbage bins. I quote, "This process was done back towards the ending of 2023. This was something already finalized just to execute."
Mm-hmm.
If you can explain that, and also why is the garbage bins under TIAT and not under VROMI?
Okay, first and foremost, I mentioned in my presentation that it came from the 2023 CapEx. I came in May 2024, so I clarified that. It was under his administration indeed, and it came under a CapEx for the revitalization of town to revitalize Phillipsburg. So that's where it came from. They wanted to enhance Phillipsburg. I think the minister then also purchased, under his administration, purchased those bins, those concrete seats, benches. They purchased that, and the next step was to purchase these garbage bins. So I'm merely executing what was already there, and it's under a CapEx that's assigned for enhancements of Phillipsburg.
And what is going to happen to those benches as most are broken?
I mentioned also in Parliament about a few weeks ago that I might even, I was thinking first to color them, to have maybe the school come and make a design, make it bright, because it's very pale. But on a weekly basis, we are faced with breaking the benches, breaking. So I'm at this point in time, we're looking in collaboration with VROMI to come up with an idea of what we're going to do with them, because they're not. I think that there is some steel in them, but not strong enough to make it to reinforce things. So I think we're going to talk to the company that first created them to see if they can redo them. If not, we'll have to pull them from town, because on a weekly basis they're breaking. So it's actually, to me personally, waste of money.
Minister, you spoke of the two reports from SOAB and the Integrity Chamber. I know you said you want to divulge more information in a future press briefing, but during your time in Parliament, and even when you just took office as a minister, you spoke of, holding people accountable for, what was done and how these licenses were distributed. One of the key words you've been hearing, non-compliance. How do you plan to address that?
So based on the outcome of the reports, and actually we've already started coming up with a new framework, paying attention, because we met with the North Friend side, and we're actually following there, like I mentioned earlier, they're 10 steps ahead of us. So we're going to restructure how these licenses will be issued. And based on the reports, we will also decide whether if some of them can remain or not. And accountability would have to be taken based on how the procedure was done. Accountability would have to be taken from those that are also received it and know that they didn't maybe support, submitted enough information probably. And the outcome, as soon as I have everything, and that's why I mentioned earlier, the confirmation letter is important. I have the drafts. The confirmation letter that everyone is supposed to receive to go and get their tax, road tax. It's important to register, because the last time we did this was about 2 years ago. So the database is completely out of whack, especially with the addition of all of these. So we're busy creating this database. If your name is not on that database, we cannot ensure that you have, that once we make the new regulatory decisions, that you will have your license. So that's why I made it very clear, by or before February 2025, make sure everything is in, because of the decisions we're about to make based on these reports. You might fall through the cracks. So I'm asking all taxi drivers, all, especially the new ones, go and get your confirmation letter. Make sure your papers are in place. I mentioned earlier that some of them, their papers are not in place. So as soon as this process is done, I will take this procedure and give everyone a holistic view of what the outcome is, because this is very integral in making sure that we have now a new regulations in place. The new regulations will focus on issuing and maintaining the permits.
Minister, let me ask you directly. Do you plan to turn over these reports to the prosecutor's office? The state secretary talking about wiping out corruption. Do you plan to submit the 2 reports to the prosecutor's office so that necessary actions can be taken?
Based on the outcome of our decision in the next coming weeks, I have a team of people in my cabinet, not in the ministry. Based on our outcome, we're going to make a decision to decide whether this information needs to go to them, yes or no. But from what I've gathered, I think the process on their end already started.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
A topic that the MP touched on was the pension also for persons who may no longer be here and are abroad. Am I to assume that if that is the case, that the person will be collecting the total amount of pension, albeit a reduced amount if he or she no longer is living in St. Martin? The reference is about the persons collecting a full pension as residing here, while this is not the case. The answer is no. The assumption is not entirely accurate. If individuals are still registered in St. Martin, even if they have not contributed to the country and are living abroad and continue to submit their taxes annually, SZV may not have information indicating they are residing abroad. In such cases, they may continue to receive the full pension. It is important to know that SZV is very pleased with the collaboration, of course, with the Department of the Civil Registry and working on a cleanup project to address such issues and improve the accuracy of our recording. This initiative aims to ensure that pension disbursements are made based on accurate residency. There are further three different possible scenarios that I would like to give some explanation on. The first one is, if someone who has not yet reached the pensionable age leaves St. Martin and is deregistered from the census office, they stop accumulating pension rights. When they turn 65, they will receive a pension based on the number of years they were a resident out of the 50 years during which pension rights could have been accrued. This means they will receive a proportionate amount calculated by the amount of years divided by 50 as a maximum for their pension. The second scenario is some individuals remain registered as residents of St. Martin but do not actually live here on St. Martin. When applying for an old age pension, they may claim to have resided in St. Martin the entire time, being the 50 pension years. If there is reason to believe they were absent for a period, efforts will be made to verify this, and any such years will be deducted from the 50 years calculation, reducing, of course, the pension amount accordingly. If a pensioner is already receiving the full pension and decides to leave St. Martin or is already living abroad, that is the third case, their pension amount will remain unchanged. Question number 3. Is the Prime Minister and/or another minister aware of the migration needs assessment of St. Martin as conducted and reported on the IOM, the International Organization for Migration? Can this report be actually pulled up and inform Parliament on government's reaction and action? Recommendations are made in the report on population and migration and registration. The MP is referencing a report published in 2021 by the International Organization for Migration. In 2018, this organization carried out what they called a comprehensive assessment of migration government needs in 10 Caribbean countries. Subsequently, an assessment was done in 2019 and 2020. In 2020, St. Martin was included in the needs assessment. In St. Martin, the interviews were conducted in March 2021 with 11 representatives of government ministries, civil society, and the private sector. Interviews with government officials included representatives of the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of VSA, and the Ministry of TIAT. The Fire Department was also included, and the Department of Statistics. Question number 4, revocation of Dutch rights. Are you aware of a case in Curaçao where the Dutch rights were revoked from a person and that person took it to court and the court decided that neither Kraantje or the minister could take away the Dutch rights from someone? The Department of Civil Registry confirmed that they are aware of this case. However, it is important to clarify that this is not a case of jurisprudence. It's a court decision regarding a specific case between a citizen and the Civil Registry of Curaçao. The case was reported in the newspaper with the headline, "Kranjci cannot revoke Dutch nationality." As per Kranjci, in the mentioned case, Kranjci issued a decision to correct the basic administration of the citizen, who subsequently appealed the decision. However, Kranjci failed to respond to the objection. As a result, the claimant lodged an appeal and took the matter to court. The court ruled in favor of the claimant. The conclusion is that the appeal is well-founded. The refusal to issue a decision on the claimant's objection, dated April 25, 2023, will be annulled. The court will decide on the matter itself, declare the claimant objection well-founded, and revoke the contestant letter from Kranjci dated October 3rd, 2022. This means that the contested letter from October 3rd, 2022 no longer holds legal effect. The case initially concerned a nationality issue. However, Kranjci did not handle the matter in accordance with the general principle of proper administration. Due to the lack of diligence in addressing this issue, the court decided in favor of the citizen. The decision in this case has now been provided to Parliament also. It is crucial to involve the Legal Affairs Department in the objection procedure and to ensure timely responses in all appeal cases.
One follow-up question, if you can give an update on the crime fund, where it was reflected on the budget and how much money is in the crime fund currently. And the question is, yesterday in Parliament there was a roundtable, a proposal, a roundtable approved. Do you support this proposal to have a roundtable with the stakeholders, and when will this take place in February?
Okay, about the crime fund, I know that there were questions before on, hey, were we paying for the OM out of the crime fund, etc. No, we were not, so I can answer that question at least. And then I'm trying to think off the top of my head right now. I believe there's about 4.5 million guilders in the crime fund. However, about 2-point-something million of that is VGT money. So from the border strengthening program, that was the subsidy that we received from the Netherlands. They placed that into the crime fund, and whatever we don't spend, of course, by the end of this year will reflow back to the Netherlands. So I believe in terms of crime fund money, again, off the top of my head, where it's around 2 million guilders or so that's currently in the crime fund. That's actually crime fund money. Then the round.
So it went from 6 to 2 in just a few months.
But if you were told 6, it could be that it was part of the VGT money. So right now there's 4-point-something in the crime fund, but not all of it is crime fund money. And then you have to remember, we also just purchased cars for the police out of the crime fund as well. But I have the exact expenditures and everything. I can share that. I discussed it, and at least I shared it with Parliament, or we discussed it during the budget handling. So I do have a end of December closure of that, but we can give some accounting for that. But it's not that there has been misspending out of the crime fund or anything like that, because that was checked.
Just for clarification, there needed to be a national decree for the purchase of the cars from the crime fund. Was that national decree signed, and when was it published?
The national decree, I believe that we were busy in the process of that still for the vehicles, because it was done in different phases as well. So it might have happened before me. I saw at least a tender, because we will be putting out a tender for the purchase of vehicles, which is then going through the Ministry of General Affairs, because it's facility services that then handles that. So that has been signed off on. So it's a longer process for us to get to that.
And then
the round table, I also read about it in the newspaper this morning on my way to work. And, you know, I think there are different things we've expressed to Parliament from the ministry perspective, that we're always willing to sit and discuss, especially me as Minister of Parliament, with Parliament. I think now the discussion or the proposal that I read in the newspaper was to do that in a closed door setting. And I think that we would be willing to do so. And I think, of course, then services are more open to discuss. But I am also willing to come as Minister of Justice at any time and explain to Parliament what the issues are that we're facing when it comes to capacity in Point Blanche, when it comes to probation services, and when it comes to anything to do with the justice chain. At this point, I'm very deeply familiar myself, and I don't even really need to bring all the different organizations to answer those questions.
But are you going to set a date in February?
We need to look at the schedule and see what's possible. So again, I read about it this morning in a newspaper. I haven't received an official request from Parliament on the topic. And I think, again, these are matters that we are constantly working on, that we're constantly dealing with. I was on my phone most of the time here because we're urgently trying to make space in Point Blanche right now this morning to make space since we have court cases going on. So, I also ask for the indulgence of Parliament and understanding that this is a topic that has our full attention as well. It has our full attention from a CPT perspective, where I have to go in June to Strasbourg to explain what we're doing as a country when it comes to the Corallo case and the watchful eyes of the Council of Europe on us. When it comes to the challenges of, what do we do right now with the prison and with capacity? Again, we don't want to get. And that's one of the things that together with the chief prosecutor that has my full attention right now, because we don't want to have a justice system right now where it's a revolving door of the same people coming in and out because there's no space in Point Blanche. And we're acutely and deeply aware of that. And we're looking and seeing how do we make decisions that are in the best interest of our population. Because at the end of the day, for me, what's most important is that the people of St. Martin feel safe. I want to have a St. Martin where you feel safe to do business, where you feel safe to walk on the road, where actually you feel safe to walk on Front Street at night. Because let's be real, a lot of us don't feel safe walking in town at night anymore. And that for me is one of the things where, again, that we can slowly go back to a place where how we used to live, when I grew up as a child. And unfortunately, that's not the reality now, but it's the decisions that we're trying to make on how do we make decisions of who we put where. And again, one of the things that has my great attention as well is the illegal firearm possession in this country, and we really need to do something about it. And I take firearm possession and illegal firearms extremely seriously, and it's one of the things that we really want to address, and why we want to also make bigger examples of people that are caught with illegal firearms or with illegal firearms in committing other crimes, and I really want us to set an example where that's concerned. And I also want St. Martin to be a country where we all know that there are laws and our laws are upheld and they are respected and that there are consequences to our actions. I don't want to have a society where we have to put everybody in jail, but at some point, maybe that's the stance that we need to take. And maybe that's what we need to do to start setting everybody back on a path of good behavior, let's say. And I think, and of mutual respect for one another, because I think it's not just the people that are, in contact with the police and sitting in police cells or in Point Blanche, but I think that even here in this room and everywhere else, that we have an obligation to each other, and we're part of a society, and we have a social contract between us that we agree to adhere to the laws of any community that we live in. So I think that we have a lot of steps to take, whether it's sexual harassment, whether it's tint on our windows, whether it's legal firearms, whether it's, parking illegally somewhere. I think that we all need to do something about it too. But in any case, me, together with the police, together with the chief prosecutor, we're taking a very strong stance when it comes to capacity. So I welcome a discussion with Parliament, but I think also MP Roseberg, as herself as a criminal lawyer, knows the limitations and knows what we're doing to try to make space. So we are doing all we can, and unfortunately, we're also faced with the issue where if you read in the Netherlands, they are also having capacity issues. In Curaçao, they have capacity issues. In Aruba, they have capacity issues. So even using the ORD, as we call it, which is an onderlinge regeling, for us to be able to send detainees to different parts of the kingdom, even that is kind of stretched in and leveraged. But it's also a discussion that I had on Monday night and Monday also with individuals from the Ministry of Justice or Security and Safety in the Netherlands to see how we can continue to work on those things. But at the same time, I also have to be realistic as Minister of Justice that the political climate in the Netherlands is also different, and that we also have to face those realities as well.
Thank you, Minister.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social health insurances.
Michael says the decision to get involved in milk business is a response to the shortage of the commodity in the industry. Executive Chairman Edwin Thirlwell says the market is calling for a change in the milk production process.
Future looks like there could well be a permanent requirement for an alternative to UHT milk, which we're in a position to fill. People are already saying that, well, that's the old milk we remember, it's proper milk. It's not UHT, and they're just the same as the breweries are having a backlash.
Mr. Thirlwell says the company is in for the long haul and additional staff has been hired.
It would have been a short-term measure, but in actual fact, because Pine Hill Dairy seem to be in the position where they either now don't want to or haven't got the equipment to make reconstituted milk, which is where they started. They started with the ability to do it, but they seem as if they've gone into without a plan B. In other words, they are now committed to UHT milk, which wasn't always popular, but it's the only thing available. But at the moment, they've no plan B to go back and make reconstituted milk.
Mr. Thirlwell says the milk industry is a competitive one.
We think there is an opportunity. It's because, don't forget, we live in a very competitive environment. We've got 2 new competitors in the marketplace. So we don't complain about it, we just buckle down and compete. So what's the difference with the dairy having to buckle down and compete then? That's the same thing, isn't it?
The executive chairman says supply chain issues, however, remain major challenges to the local milk industry. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
Service to the less fortunate has been on the front burner for the Lions Club of Barbados East for the last 37 years and will continue. Two-time President Terence Innes says the 2025 motto is service with a smile.
Bringing hope to those in need and making a lasting impact. And we do it all with a smile, because true service is given from the heart with warmth, kindness, and compassion. You agree? Right. Over the past 37 years, our club has been a beacon of service, demonstrating unwavering dedication to humanitarian efforts, community development, and the empowerment of those less fortunate.
Lion Innes says they're looking to the future with warmth, kindness, and compassion, and has thanked the membership for having brought the club thus far. Reverend Gillian Crawford believes a smile is about going the extra mile and suggests even if not seen, one's voice reflects warmth and comfort to interact.
A smile, my friends in Christ, sets that attitude. Employees that smile at customers say, and I quote, "I am ready to help to the best of my ability," end of quote. Even in the most difficult service situations, a smile triumphs. In fact, a smile itself, even when forced, changes attitudes, moods, tones, and it warms up the setting. So there's the old adage saying, and I quote, "Grin and beer," end of quote. So I'll change it, and I'll say to you tonight, quote, "Smile and beer," end of quote. Serving with a smile sends persons away happy rather than sad.
Wendy Burke,